Hello.
Hello. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and that you've been able to get out and about despite some of this dreary and rainy weather. But I hope you have had a good week and that you're looking forward to the week ahead. We're going to have a similar structure this week for your writing. So on Monday you're going to be thinking about some comprehension skills and some making sure you're reading and answering the questions correctly. And then for the rest of the week, you're going to be focusing on the topic of non-chronological reports. So the way we're going to be working it is on the Tuesday, you're going to be kind of doing some research and finding out about the features of non-chronological reports. Then you're going to plan one, then you'll end up writing one, and then at the end of the week, you'll be editing your report, provided again for the Friday as well for your literacy. For maths, you're going to be doing some decimal work this week. Year 4, your decimal work is going to be in the context of money, and Year 5, you're just going to be doing some decimal work on its own. If you are wanting some extra work this week, I would suggest finding some coins around your house. Maybe you've got some pocket money lying around in your bedroom. Maybe you could ask your parents very politely to check their purses and wallets. I would play with money as much as possible, even Year 5s. I know you're not looking at money specifically, but decimal points and money go together very nicely. So I would play with money as much as you can, notes, coins, anything. Try adding them up, try subtracting different amounts. If you have £5.70, can you think to yourself, how much more do I need to get to £10? Or how much more do I need to get to £20? Or if I have £2.73, how much more do I need to get to £50, £100? They're the kind of activities you could think about for extending your learning and having some fun with your learning this week for your maths. So if we're thinking about money and decimals, I just want to show you this so we can go through it and remind ourselves a few things. So I've got here some toy money, and I've got a 1p, a 10p, 100p and 200p. We need to be really careful of where we're placing our zeros when it comes to writing these in pounds using dotty decimal points. And I like to do a little action, dotty decimal points, dotty decimal points, So we're going to be using dotty decimals. Here we go. And as you can see, if we're talking about p's, we're just using the p. There's no pound sign. And if we're using the pound sign, we're just using the pound sign, and the dotty decimal, we're not putting the p at the end. Okay, so you have to choose one or the other. So we've got our pound sign, and 1p is the same as £0, dotty decimal, 0 tens, 1 penny. And then your 10p is the same as £0, dotty decimal, 10 pennies. Okay, and then we've got our 100p is the same as £1. So here we've got £1, our dotty decimal, and we've got no pennies. And the same one with our 200p or our £2. We've got our £2 here, our dotty decimal, and no pennies. Okay, so we really need to think about where we're putting our zeros. If obviously we had these ones switched around, it would mean something completely different. Thinking about adding and subtracting with money or with decimals, the really important thing you need to remember is that the decimal points, your dotty decimals, they need to line up. Okay, they need to be lined up together. So I've done an example here. I've used these coins that we looked at just a minute ago. The most important thing is that my decimal points here are lined up. Okay, so we can do this together. Maybe you've already started to do this in your head. So let's start here. We've got 1 plus nothing plus nothing plus nothing is 1. 0 plus 1 plus nothing is 1. Let's put our dotty decimal lined up in the right place. 0 plus 0, 2 and 1 is 3. And don't forget the pound sign. So you may well get a sum a bit like this, or a question that asks you to add or subtract using these kind of numbers, thinking about our money and our decimal points. So here I've pretending I've got a word problem, and the word problem is asking me to add up £5, add £17.80, add 20p. the first thing I'm going to do is convert these amounts so they're the same. So I could either convert them so they're all into pennies, or I could convert them so they're all into pounds. I'm going to convert them so they're all into pounds. So that 20p, how am I going to write that? Have a little think. Have you got the answer? So the answer is £0, dotty decimal 20 for the 20p. Okay, so now I'm going to add all these up. And do you remember the special rule? We must make sure our dotty decimals are all lined up. So here we go. I'm going to have a go now. Have I laid it out correctly? See, all my pound signs are lined up. You're right, my dotty decimals are not lined up. So this means I haven't written this out correctly, have I? It doesn't matter so much here that these are lined up. The most important thing is that my decimal points are lined up. So I'm going to have to rewrite this. I'm going to have my £5 dotty decimal. I'm going to have my £17.80 dotty decimal. And I've got my 20p, and I can fill in that 0, that's fine. I can put in my pound signs if I want to, that's fine as well. And here we go. My decimal points are lined up. I'm very happy. I can even put my decimal point there in the answer, so I'm ready to go. So 0, 0, 0 is 0. 0, oh, 8 and 2, if I think about my number bonds, I know that's 10. So 0, and we carry into our pounds. Okay, and then we've got £7. Add £1 is £8. 8 add 5 is £13. So I can carry that as well. And then we're going to do our 10. Add 10 is 20. So we have got £23 altogether. Another way you could do it to make it a little bit less messy and line it all up properly is you can add your zeros in here as well into your tens, your pounds 10 column, and then you can put your pound sign. A little bit messy, Mrs. Ward, can you see? So I can do the same thing again, but can you see here it just looks a bit clearer. So 0, we've got here 10, so we carry it across, dotty decimal, that remember was 13, and then we can see very clearly that that is £23. So that's just a clearer way of setting it out. Year 5s, you might have similar kind of questions where you're thinking about adding decimal points or ordering decimal points, subtracting decimal points, multiplying decimal points. So let's have a little practice here together. I've got our 1 whole. As a fraction, that would be 1, or 1 over 1, 2 over 2, 50 over 50, 100 over 100, or 1.0. That's our whole. And then do we remember what this one here is as a fraction? This one here is 0.5, or as a fraction it would be a half. As a percentage it would be 50%. And then we've got this one here, and this is an eighth. If you have 1/8, this is 1/8. How many equal parts has this been split up into? 8. 8. So if we had 8 of these, it would equal 1. And if you wanted to, you could actually double check it, make sure it's right. Should we do that together now? Let's prove it. We want to see if this is an 8th and it's been split up into 8ths, then we should be able to add this up 8 times. 0.125 add 0.125. We could do that 8 times, but the quicker way is to multiply it. So we can have 0.125 times by 8. You see, I'm setting it out how I would usually set a multiplication sum out, okay, when we're writing it down. So let's start together at the units. Well, we've got tenths and units, but let's start this end anyway, okay? Okay, so 8 times 5 is, do you know what it is? It's 40. Keep the 0, we put the 4 into the next column across. Then we have 2 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 add 4 is 20. Okay, put it into the next column with the 2 we carry across, we keep the 0 over here. Then we've got 1 times 8 is 8. Add on the 2 is 10. We need to make sure we transfer that dotted decimal down below. And then we've got 0 times 8 is 0. Add on the 1. So it's right. 0.125 times 8 is 1 whole. So using these three numbers that I've got here with my decimal points, how would I set this out? I'm adding them up and I want the dotted decimals to be lined up. How am I going to do it? Have a think. Let's go through it together now. So first of all, I've got 1.0. Can you see that? And then I've got 0.5. My dotted decimals are lined up. And then I've got 0.125. I'm going to be adding these up. Now, this technically is actually fine to leave it like this, but for some people it will help to fill in the zeros. And if I put zeros in here, it doesn't actually change the number. These zeros are not placeholders, so that's absolutely fine. And it might just help us to visualize and help us to get the answer. We can always leave these out if we don't want to, but it's fine to have them in as well. So 005 is 5, 002 is 2, 5 and 1 is 6, add nothing, still 6. We keep our dotted decimal lined up, and then 1 whole plus nothing is 1 whole. So the answer is 1.625. So for your literacy, you're going to be thinking about non-chronological reports. And non-chronological reports are reports that are factual, and they are normally things that you would like to learn about or read more about to learn facts. And non-chronological means it's not in time order. So if you think chronological, we're thinking it happens in a certain order, in the chronological order. So non-chronological means it's not happening in that order. The time of the order, it doesn't matter. You're just getting the facts. So I've got some examples to show you of some non-chronological reports. So you could have something like instructions. So here we've got instructions of how to make a banana smoothie, and we've got a picture. We've got here we've got a title, we've got a heading, we've got subheadings, and we've got facts and information. So maybe have a look around home. Maybe you'll be able to find some different examples of recipes or instructions, and have a little look. How are these things different to, say, a story or a poem? We're thinking about the key features of a non-chronological report and what makes them so special. So here we've got text and why do sloths hang about? Again, what do you notice about this? We've got a picture, we've got our heading or title, we've got paragraphs of information, we've got, maybe you can't see it, we have got subheadings here. Okay, we're thinking about learning new facts, we're thinking about learning new things. Again, here, how does a radio work? What can you pick out? What are the key features of this type of text? These are examples again of non-chronological reports. What do you notice? What is special about this? It's so different to a poem, isn't it? It's so different to a novel. How do we know this is what it is? Okay, so that's what you're going to be thinking about and doing some research on. And by the end of the week, you're going to be writing your own non-chronological report, and you need to have a think about what you would like to write about. So already this year, you may have written a letter, a formal letter, a letter to someone kind of serious and important. I'm not talking about an informal letter to your friend or someone in your family. I'm talking about a formal letter. Maybe you've done that already and you'd like to have a go at it again. maybe you have written a newspaper article and you think, actually, I can do it even better this time. Or maybe you think to yourself, actually, I really want to make a fact file about the ancient Greeks. It's up to you. So you're going to be doing some research on Tuesday, and then you're going to be doing some planning on Wednesday, and on Thursday you're going to be writing your very own non-chronological report, and come Friday you're going to be editing it and maybe playing the game that's on your pack, in your pack. For some fun this week, I thought we could look in this book, The Dangerous Book for Boys. And yes, it says for boys, but I think it applies for girls too. And I think it's a fabulous book, actually, lots of fun ideas. So in here, there's a really good example of a non-chronological report, and it's all about how to make the greatest paper aeroplane in the world. So I'm going to scan this and include it into this video. Give it a read. If you don't want to make a paper aeroplane, then that's fine. Just reading it will give you another example of a non-chronological report for you to get your head around, and you could think about, what makes this a non-chronological report? What makes it so special? And maybe once you've read it, you'll be inspired and want to try making the paper aeroplane in this book, or just making your own one. So have fun.